Hey guys, my name is Alexandra Valentine and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Here we'll post all things sewing tutorial and sewing hacks. So if this is something you're interested in, kindly give this video a huge thumbs up and also hit on the subscribe button to join the family. So in today's video, we are going to be drafting and sewing a notched collar shirt, like a maxi shirt with a bias piping around the collar area and the button area. So let's just get straight into the video. Now I've cut out both the front and back pieces on fold. So I'm just going to give you the measurement I used because the front and back pieces, they are quite different, or they are different. Now for the front piece, I made use of my shoulder to my shirt length, where I want my shirt length to stop. So how I was able to get that was by marking my shoulder to waist. Okay, this is for the front piece, my shoulder to waist, and then I'm going to add extra 10 to 12 inches, but in my case now I added 12 inches because I wanted this shirt to be very long. Now I added 12 inches. Mind you, this 12 inches I added, the hemming allowance is there. So for the back piece now, it's going to be plus 4 inches of length. Okay, so you just place it and add 4 inches for the length. Now for the width of the back piece, I am going to use my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches. Okay, my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches allowance. Okay, because this is going to be a max shirt. If it was going to be a fitted shirt, I would have just added 1 inch, but I want this to be quite maxi, so I added 2 inches allowance. Now for the width of the front part, we are just going to add extra 1 inch to it, which is going to serve as our button allowance. Okay, now I am going to join the edges. Remember that one is longer than the other, and one, the front part is wider than the back part. Now I'm just going to align the shoulder line together like this, or the edge of the fabric together like this, and then I am going to come down with my rule, my tape. I'm going to come down from that open edge here. I'm going to come down by 2 inches. So I'm just going to be marking my 2 inches there. Now I'm going to use my ruler, my straight ruler, to connect that place I marked into the closed edge, just like this, in a slanted form. Then I'm going to go ahead now and cut it out. So now that I have cut it, I am going to drag the front part down, and then the back part, just so that we go back to realign the hem of the fabric. Now the back part, I'm going to fold it on top of the front part, just like this. Remember that this is slanted, so you want to slant your fabric in a way that it will overlap the front part of the shirt. Okay, so they just go ahead now and press it down. The next thing to do now is to draft out both the horizontal and vertical measurements. Okay, but before I do that, I want to fold in the button allowance, just so I know where my fabric is starting from. So I'm going to use my pressing iron now to hold it down. Okay, so that you'll be able to get a clear picture of where it's starting from. Remember, this is for our button allowance. This is not where the fabric is starting from. Then I'll now go ahead, after pressing, I'll now go ahead to start drafting or marking the horizontal and vertical measurement. So we are going to start with our shoulder measurement, which is your shoulder divided by 2. Now I want this shirt, since I want the shirt to be maxi, I'm not going to put my main shoulder measurement. I'm just going to add like about 1.5 inch to the main shoulder measurement. Then I'm going to come down from there by 9 inches for my armhole. So this is me measuring the shoulder measurement on that 9 inches I just marked, so that I'll be able to have a straight line. And then I'm going to connect the 2 points into a straight line, and then I'm going to extend the armhole depth, mark depth. Okay. So next I'm going to mark my body measurement, which is my round bust divided by 4. So I'm just going to mark it on the armhole there. My round bust divided by 4 plus 2 inches. Okay, so this is my round bust divided by 4. I'm just going to mark it. Now for the rest of the body part, it's also going to carry my round bust divided by 4. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to just curve this into the armhole line, and that's just that for the armhole. Why for the main bodies, it's going to carry the same measurement. So let's go straight into the neck part. For the width of my neck, I'm using 2.5 inches. Okay, so that it's not very wide. And then for the depth of my neckline, I'm using 5 inches, 4 to 5 inches, but preferably excuse me, you use 5 inches. Okay, so that the notched collar area is going to be very visible and evident. Now I'm going to go ahead now to cut this out, just the upper part. Okay, raise it up and then cut the upper part. Do not cut alongside with the down part. Remember, this is both the front part and the back part. So when you're done cutting all the way to that point, you open it up, then you make a straight line towards you into the neckline. Okay, and then you are going to cut that out. So now that we have cut that out, we are going to also go ahead now to cut out the armhole, which we've drawn earlier. So after cutting out the armhole, I'm just going to go ahead now to open up the front part. Remember, I folded away 1 inch for our button allowance. So now I am just going to open it up so that it becomes two separate pieces, instead of since we folded it, so that it becomes two separate pieces for the front part. Mind you, I'm not cutting out the button allowance, I am just opening it up like this. Okay, so this is what we have at the end of the day. So next up now, I am going to open up the front part, the back part, then I am going to be joining the front part and the back part on the shoulder and the sides. Okay, so firstly you want to join the shoulder. You can see the open up that I did. This is the front part, just to make them two different pieces. Okay, like I explained earlier. Now I am going to be placing the front part on the back part, and then go ahead now and stitch across the shoulder area. And then by the time you're done stitching it, you're just going to drag it. Remember that there's like a drag, like we are dragging the back towards the front, so you're just going to drag it and then stitch the sides with 1 inch or even half of an inch, since what we are making is a very maxi shirt. So now I have gone ahead to do that. I have stitched the shoulder down and I've dragged it to stitch the side down. I stitched the side with half of an inch, and this is what we have it looking like. So next I'm going to curve out this sharp edge I have on the button area. I'm just going to make a little curve. So I just joined the two edges together, then I'm just going to make that part a little bit curved, instead of as opposed to the sharp edge that I have there. So I'm just following the design that we are recreating from the thumbnail. Now go ahead now to measure about 3 inches from the edge. Then I'm just going to use my scissors to give a small notch at that point there. Now the reason why I'm giving 3 inches is because, as opposed to 2 inches, is because 1 inch is already for our button allowance. So 2 inches plus 1 inch for the button allowance, that's 3 inches. Then I'm going to just notch it at that area. Now I'll go ahead now to cut out the curve that I made earlier. So next I'm going to bring a long piece of fabric that is at least 5 inches of weight. This is what I'm going to use as as the interfacing for the button allowance. You can see I'm just trying to make sure that the width is 5 inches. Then I'm going to place the button side on it like this, making sure that the straight line is aligning so that I'll be able to cut out that curve part we have at the neck area. Then now I'm going to cut out the excess at the hem, then trace out the curve we have around the neck area. So you want to make sure that the neck area is quite adjusted, like it's very well placed. Then you go ahead to cut trace it. Now I'm going to use my chalk to mark where I want this interfacing to stop at the neck area, okay? Then I'll take out the shirt, and then from that point that I marked earlier, I'm just going to use my curve ruler to trace it out because this 5 inches of width is too much. But it's good that you are able to cut at least 5 inches of width because of the depth of the neck area, okay? And I'm just going to slim it down to like half of it, just like you see me drawing it. So from that point that I marked on the neck area, just going to curve it into the button area or the remaining part of the fabric, then draw a straight line downwards. Then I'll go ahead to cut through that line that I drew earlier. So now we have our interfacing. So the next thing to do now is to cut out our collar. So now what I'm going to do is to cut out our collar, I have to measure around the neckline, and where we're going to start to measure around the neckline is going to start at that part I notched earlier. Remember that this is a notched collar. So I'm just trying to show you that I'm notched around 3 inches before. So you're going to start from that notch point from the 3 inches, okay? Then you start measuring round the neck until you get to the second notched point on the other side. So whatever it is you have is going to serve as the length of your collar. So for mine, I'm not really seeing it because it's been a while ago I did this, but this is going to be the length of my collar. So now I am going to bring another piece of fabric, um this like two pieces together. So I am going to take the length of it, which is the round measurement I just took on the neckline. Now I'm going to fold this piece of fabric into two. Remember, it's already pieces. Now I'm going to fold it. Then the length of the collar I got earlier, I'm going to divide into two, and I am going to mark it there. So you're also going to add half of an inch. As you can see two mark point there. That's because I added half of an inch. Then that mark point, the last mark point, I'm going to extend in a straight line. Now for the width of this collar, I'm going to be using 4 inches. In your case, you might as well want to make use of 5 inches so that you get a very nice result. Okay. Then on the end of the collar as well, you mark your 4 inches or 5 inches depending on what you're going for. Okay, then I'm going to connect those two marked points into a straight line like this. I will then go ahead now and cut it out. So from the open edge of the collar, I am going to be coming down by half of an inch. Then I'm going to use my curve ruler to just connect that into the closed edge of the collar, okay? Just like this. So this is going to enable the collar sit properly because you know your neck is round, so and this is just straight. So you have to make it as round as possible so that it is balanced on the neck. Now remember we are dealing with a round or a curvy collar. So now on the open edge again at the top, I'm just going to curve this out just like I did on the shirt part. Okay, so I'm just going to curve this out like this, and then I'm going to cut out through that curve. So I'm just making sure that it's as round as possible using my curve ruler. So now I'm going to cut this out. Now that we are done, this is what we have it looking like. So I'm just going to open it up. Remember, we have two pieces of this, and opening it up now makes it a complete collar. Now you can see how nice and beautiful it is. So I wish mine was actually wider than this because I made use of 4 inches, or I think I made use of 3.5. I cannot remember right now. But if you're making yours, make sure that yours is around 5 inches of width so that it's very bold and very visible. Okay, so the next thing to do now is to use our bias tape. Now we are going to open it and just fold it into. Okay, then we'll start stitching all around the edge of the collar like this until we get to the other end. And when we are done with that stitching, we stitching of the bias on the first fabric, then you're just going to place the second fabric right side facing it and then stitch round the edge again. Now I have done that, and this is what we have it looking like. Okay, so I'm just going to use my scissors now to notch out the rough edges and then turn it over. I've done that already, so I'm just going to turn it over and give this a very good press. So after steam ironing the collar, this is what we have it looking like. So now I am going to go ahead now to join the collar to the shirt part. Okay, you want to join the collar to the shirt part before the interfacing goes in, right? Okay, then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold this collar in two, and then so that I'll be able to get the middle. So now I'm going to take one part of the collar. Remember, it's two parts, right? So I'm going to take one part of the collar, match the two midpoints on both the collar and the shirt. Then I'll stitch all the way from the left, from the middle to the left, and then from the middle again to the right. So let's just go get that done and come back and show you guys what I've done. So I've gone ahead to do that, just that. I've attached just one part of the collar to the shirt. Okay, so when I'm stitching, I want to make sure that I stop before the bias. I don't stitch all the way through the bias point. Remember that there is a bias at the tip of the collar, so just stitch all before the bias and then you stop. Now I'm going to open it. Oh, I'm going to open up this button area again. Remember that there is a bias going through this part, and then this is the interfacing, right? But before the interfacing goes in, we'll have to put our bias again. The same method we use for the collar is the same method we are going to use here as well. So just open up your bias, fold it into two, and then start stitching at the edge of the button allowance part. Then you stitch all the way to until you get to the collar point. Okay, then what I'm going to do next is, after I'm done stitching that, I'm also going to just stitch the interfacing as well. So let's just go get that done and come back and show you guys what I've done. So I forgot to mention that when you're stitching the interfacing, so you're going to stitch it all the way to the end of the interfacing, making sure that both the collar, the shirt, and the interfacing, they are all aligning at the edge. Like, just neatly arrange it like this, then you stitch all the way to the end of this interfacing. Okay, so you just stitch all the way to this end. So this is what I have it looking like at the end of the day. I've gone ahead to stitch the bias and also stitch the interfacing. So what I'm going, you can see the neck area that I stitched it up all the way to the end, right? So at that neck area now, I'm just going to notch it out, but not to cut out the thread or the stitching that I did there. Okay, so now I am going to be turning this to the right side. Now that we've turned it over to the right side, you can see how beautiful it's looking. Now I'm just going to take my steaming iron and give this a very good press so that it relaxes. Okay, so we are going to repeat the same step to the other side as well, and just for our video not to be longer than necessary, we'll just skip that part. So just repeat this same process to the other side of the button allowance. So I've done that and I'm giving this shirt a very good price. You can see that the outcome of the shirt is looking all beautiful and it's coming together. So now back to the collar again. Remember that we stitched down only one part of the collar. So we need to fold in the second part of the collar. So at the end of this collar now, I am just trying to notch it out so that it will be relaxed. So if you notice that from the beginning of the collar to and the other end of the collar, they are now neatly closed up. That's because of the interfacing that we stitch all the way to the collar. So what I'm going to do now to the remaining part that is rough is just to fold in half of an inch, and then I'm going to make a top stitch across it like this, and that's just it about the collar part. So I've gone ahead to make that top stitch, and this is what we have. It's looking all nice and clean. Okay, so just keep this shirt aside now and work on the sleeves. So for the sleeves, it's going to have two parts because we have a bias piping around the sleeve area. So for the first part, the length is going to be 19 inches, while the for the rest part it's going to be 5 inches, just to complete the sleeve length of 23 inches. Okay, so the length of this one now is going to be 19 inches. So I'm just going to use my chalk now to mark it, and then use my ruler to extend the marked point, then cut it out. So I'm just going to freestyle the armhole area, but I want to make sure that the measurement for this armhole on the shirt on the sleeves is also the same measurement for the armhole on the shirt as well. So in order to do that, I am just going to go ahead now to bring my shirt and then measure it to get to confirm that yes, it's going to fit, like it's not going to be short. So for the other part of the sleeve is going to be the same weight, but the length is going to be about 5 inches. Okay, so and mind you, it is on fold, so that the only part I'm going to have joining is at those parts like where we are going to attach the bias. So I'm just making sure that it is 5 inches. Okay, and then at the middle of that joining part is where the bias is going to come in. I'm going to open up the sleeves and also open up the second part of the sleeve, like the down part of the sleeve. I remember when I said that this down part of the sleeve is on a fold of two. Okay, so I'm just trying to double it, and then it's going to go this way. But before I make that joining, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and then stitch my bias on it. Remember, if you're stitching your bias, that you open up your bias and then fold it into two like this. Okay, then you just place it on the edge of where you want to attach it and then stitch all the way down. So by the time I'm done attaching my bias, then I'll just go ahead and stitch the down part of the sleeve, and that's just basically it. I'm going to repeat the same process on both sleeves, and then I'll come back and show you guys what I have. So this is what the sleeve is looking like after I went ahead to join it. Then I also gave it a very good press. Now I'll just bring my shirt now and then attach the sleeves to it. So to attach the sleeves, I'm going to take the middle part of the top armhole on the sleeve and then align it to the armhole on the shirt. Then from that point, I'm going to stitch to the left and to the right, and then I also repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So I've stitched it down, and this is what it's looking like. Now the next thing to do is just to stitch from the shirts, connect all the way to the sleeves. You can see how beautiful this shirt is looking. Okay, see the sleeves and then the bodice. Okay, so that's just basically it. Then I'll also go over to the sewing machine, create my buttonholes, and then attach my buttons. Then on this part, I'm just going to fold one, fold two, stitch. Then on the other side, fold one, fold two, stitch, and then the back as well, fold one, fold two, then top stitch it. So that's just basically it for the making of this shirt. Or you cut a big piece of fabric and then just the just stitch to the hem of the shirt. So you can see that there is a slit at the side. Okay, that's because I did not stitch all the way down. Then what I'm going to do, that part now I've done it. So in order to have a smooth finish like that other side, what you're going to do is to press open the seam like this, then you still fold one, fold two, then you top stitch. Okay, you top stitch all the way till you get to the end, just like this. And then by the time you get to the part that is closed, like to the end of the opening, you're going to cross and then fold one, fold two, top stitch, keep the stitching until you get to the end of the hem of the shirt. Okay, so that's just basically it. Let's just go get that done and you then give this a very good press. Thank you so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying this video and finding this video very helpful, kindly give this video a huge thumbs up and also hit on the subscribe button to join the family. Until next time, bye.